Hey there friends, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be making a new page for my sketchbook. So as you can see, I already painted the first page of this new sketchbook. I didn't film it, but I did film the second page, and that's what I'm gonna show you today. As you can see, this paper is quite rough. I didn't expect the paper to be this rough, and I was really scared when I got the sketchbook because I kept thinking that my style of painting wasn't going to really be a good match with the rough texture. But I was really pleasantly surprised because you can see that I draw kind of in a vintage style, right? And the roughness of the paper makes it look even more vintage. So while I don't really think I will be using quite this rough of a paper in bigger illustrations, I am super happy that I got to experiment with this type of texture. And I do plan on finishing this entire sketchbook. So this illustration that I'm making today is inspired by a picture that I found on Pinterest, and I managed to track down the source of the picture. And the source of the picture is this lovely lady. She has a shop on Etsy, and she makes these ruffle capes that are so lovely and so vintage looking. And I'm going to link her shop in the description in case you want to see it. So as you can see, my process of making a watercolor illustration, I am not an expert on it. I just started learning, and this is what I figured out up until now. So I start my watercolors from very light washes to very dark. You can see that I painted this very light blue wash, and then with kind of beige, light yellow kind of thing. I did wait for this whole thing to dry before I started painting my next layer, which is going to be like a medium layer, a bit darker shadows, and defining a bit more the ruffles and everything. The colors that I use for this little illustration were mostly burnt sienna and yellow ochre, but I also use a little bit of vermilion hue, and I also use a lot of Prussian blue. But right now I'm just painting this bunched up, these places where the fabric is bunched up. This line that I'm painting on the bottom, it's just that the fabric is rolled and stitched, so there's just more fabric there. So it's naturally going to be darker and a bit more beige. I am defining also the the ribbon. I have like a little bit of a problem drawing ribbons. I really need to draw them more because they don't make sense to me. I can't wrap my head around it. But I do think I did a good job on this one, but probably only because I was looking at a reference. So you can see here now that I'm mixing a bit more of a grayish dark tone, and that is for the actual shadows. So instead of the fabric blends together, I'm painting the actual shadows where there is fabric blocking the light from another patch of fabric. And so those will catch more like of the ambient light, and the shadow will be a bit more gray. That's how it works in my brain. I'm not sure if this is what's actually happening. Like I said, I'm not an expert in painting. I did have some classes when I was younger, but honestly, I don't really remember much of it. Maybe I do have a bit of muscle memory, but the actual like theory, I do remember color theory from college, but when I'm painting, these kinds of things become like either instinct or I'm looking at a reference. It's never like super organized tidy in my head. I just do what feels right. And often what feels right is the reality of it, right? So here, this is really important. I wanted to show you this. So to do these really soft shadows, which start strong but then become a bit more diffuse, I lay down the shadow with my brush. Then I pick up a dry brush, which is really dry, and I just use it on the places of the shadow that I want to feather. And this will leave you with a pretty soft edge for the shadow, but you can do this for anything, not just shadows. Any place where you want to diffuse a color and make it like super blendy, you can do this. Just lay down the wash and then pick up a pretty dry brush and lightly feather it from the edge that you want to blend. And the brush will pick up a bit of the excess liquid, but it will also just start to kind of blend in the whatever color it is to the dry paper. So as long as your paper is dry, you can do this. So I mostly wanted to study this little cape so that I could apply it on other illustrations. So usually I try to understand a piece of clothing before I try to put it on a character, for example. And because I'm having such a hard time with white fabric, I decided to make a study of the cape before I could apply it to the little duck that you see on the bottom, which is what I'm going to paint next. So right now I'm just deepening those shadows. So again, with that grayish beige color, so it's like almost like a um, sheer dark brown color, right? And I'm going to refine the shadow a few times because it always dries a lot lighter than I want. So I just keep darkening it until I get to the dark shade that I want. You see me apply this again to the same spots. So right now I'm just on the final stage of the watercolor painting, which is just putting in my darkest darks and adding in those final shadows, putting in all the details now that my base is just there for me. I just put all the details that I was ignoring before, and that's really what makes the painting pop in the end. If you have a strong base, the details in the end it will make the painting pop. If you don't have a strong base, it doesn't really matter how many details you add, it's just not gonna look good. So I just spent like 90% of my time making the base strong so that I can just add those final details. And I'm really satisfied with how the little cape turned out. The duck is another story. I don't know what happened, but it was so hard for me to make this duck. I just didn't understand how I could render all those feathers on the body and the face. I've never really painted a duck before, so maybe that's why. The reference pictures were not helping me. I was completely lost on this, but somehow in the end, I do like how the duck turned out. I just messed with it a lot and I started looking for reference of how other artists painted feathers on ducks. That made me understand a bit more how to render feathers, and that really helped me. But yeah, like I really need to practice feathers more, especially white feathers, because this is a whole white duck with a white cape on it, just a lot of white things, and I have such a hard time with white objects, so that's definitely a challenge for me, and I knew that going into it, and I'm really happy that I did finalize the painting. I didn't chicken out and try something else. I did stick with it. And I do find that if I stick with a painting, even if it's hard, I do like the final result. Like I really need to trust myself a bit more and just go until the end and not give up when I'm going through that ugly stage, because somehow in the end things always start making sense. It takes a little bit to get there, but things will start making sense and you can fix it. It's just a painting, it's just a painting on paper. You can fix it. And if you really don't like it, you can make another one. It's fine, right? It's not the end of the world. So, yeah, I just went in with that mentality like, it's okay, I can fix it. Just keep going, just keep going. And it all worked out in the end. This was the point where I was like, okay, this is not working. Like, I started panicking a little bit because I don't know, it looks so flat. All the shadows look, it had basically no shadows. So I started like trying to put in some darker shades to make it pop a little bit more. And I knew that it was quite early to do that. Usually I start super light and I go to the medium shades and then I go to the super darks. But you can see here that I skipped that medium stage part because I just couldn't see where the medium parts would be. So I just had to bring out the darker shades to give me a bit of perspective. And that did work here. You can see that I start putting in those medium shades in the hat and in the cape. But I did this, I feel like that's why this painting was a bit disjointed for me, because I just messed with the stages and I just started light but then went straight to darks and it just confused me a little bit. But you can see like I'm getting my groove back here and I'm being able to lay in those middle ground shades and match them with the darker shades. And I'm starting to really like where this is going. You can see I'm starting to get a bit more confident. The ribbon is still, I don't really like that much how it turned out. I didn't have a reference here, so you can see in the cape at the top, I did have a reference and I did like how it turned out, but at the bottom, I just did it from my imagination, and I do think it needs a bit of work. I do like using a mechanical pencil to finish my illustrations. The graphite is just a little bit softer than an actual pen, like an ink pen. And now I'm starting on the umbrella. This umbrella, I did rush it a little bit. I was, no, it's not an umbrella, sorry, it's a, what's called parasol. Yes, it's for the sun, not for the rain. It's super fancy. When I was a kid, I always wanted a parasol. I just would look at those pictures of parasols on the internet, those really cute French parasols. I wanted one so bad. Um, but yeah, I never got one, unfortunately. Even today, I never really had a parasol. Maybe I should get one. They seem fun. I don't know if I would be that brave to go out with one in the streets, but if I was just a little bit more brave, I would go out to the park with a fancy little French style parasol. But yeah, I did just rush through it because I couldn't find a good reference. It was all from imagination. I'm happy with how it turned out for what it is. But yeah, I think I could have done better with the parasol. Let's just leave it at that. And finally, I'm creating this leaf decoration on the sides. The reason why I'm creating these leaf decorations on every page is because I have a really hard time painting leaves and I want to practice it. So I was inspired by those old calendars, those vintage calendars, which always had this motif of leaves on the sides to like decorate it. Essentially, it just seemed like, oh, they didn't have to do it, but they did it because it's just so pretty, right? Why not put this beautiful leaf decoration on the side? And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to do those leaves decorations on every page to frame them and make them even more beautiful. And as a bonus, I am practicing my leaves, which is just really difficult for me to do. But I do think that by the end of the sketchbook, I will be a full pro at making leaves. But yes, I was pretty happy with how the leaves turned out. Like I said, I'm not good at leaves, so anytime that I finish a leaf, I'm I'm happy with it. I pat myself on the back that I did a leaf. So look like, and I do like making leaves a bit more brownish. I feel like it reminds me of autumn, and that's my favorite season. So that's what I like to paint. It did give me a bit of trouble, few of these leaves, especially when they fold. I feel like that's my real problem, when the leaf folds and just bends in a way that I'm not used to painting it. Confuses me. I think the secret to leaves is just starting out very simple, focusing on the veins for the details, and leaving, a very strong defined shadow, a very strong defined light, where the light hits. Just pretty defined, because they are usually kind of glossy, so they do catch the light in a very defined way. And yeah, as long as I do that, I feel like the leaf turns out very pretty. But I do have a hard time with them. I never know how to paint the veins exactly. Here I'm following a reference. Put it on the screen again if you want to see it. Is from a calendar from I think the late 1800s and early 1900s, I believe. I just found it so beautiful and I really wanted to paint it. This leaf was super fun, with the really strong, shapes of light and then in complete shadow. It's just so fun to paint them. And I'm really having a lot of fun painting leaves. I do want to make a motif like that on every page. Hopefully, I can draw some from imagination, or pick a lot of different reference from real plants that I like to make on every page, and hopefully add some flowers too, very soon. If you have any suggestions of what I should draw and paint, please let me know in the comments. Please like the video if you enjoy it. It really helps and it means a lot to me. And that's how it turned out. I hope you like it. I really like this page in the end. I didn't expect like so much, but I really do. This is the previous page. This is the page of today. And stay tuned for the next one. Bye bye.